Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Friday, January 29th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyun. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea reported 469 new COVID-19 cases Friday as it gets ready for its vaccine rollout next month. One of the vaccines secured in the country, made by American firm Novavax, announced that its vaccine showed an efficacy rate of nearly 90%. Amid a shortage of vaccines, the European Union is pressing for an export control scheme that will block the exports of vaccines developed within the region. The shortage is also forcing member states to suspend inoculations. In South Korea's industrial output, consumption and investment increased on month in December, in the latest sign that the country's economy is on a recovery track amid the pandemic. We begin with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The nation reported 469 new cases of COVID-19 on Friday. The figure ticked down slightly, but it's yet to be seen whether health authorities will ease the current social distancing level in their announcement set for the weekend. Of the new cases on Friday, 445 were locally transmitted, most of which were from in the Greater Seoul area. 24 were from overseas. The total number of cases has now surpassed the 77,000 mark. U.S. biotech firm Novavax announced that its COVID-19 vaccine has an efficacy rate of nearly 90%. The company on Thursday revealed that the vaccine was 89.3% effective in phase 3 clinical trials conducted on 15,000 people in the UK. Of the participants aged between 18 to 84, 27% were above 65. Results also revealed the vaccine to be almost 86% effective against the UK variant. However, a separate trial offered a much lower efficacy rate against the South African strain at just below 50%. The South Korean government unveiled its nationwide COVID-19 vaccination plan set to begin next month. Healthcare workers will be among the priority group. The inoculation will be carried out in several phases with the aim of having 70% of the population getting the shots by November. Our Kim Do-yeon has this story.
The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency has released its plans for vaccination, confirming frontline medical workers as the first group to get the shots. The shots will be given starting next month, and the plan is divided into quarters. Over 65s and those who work with the elderly are among those who will get the vaccine in the first 2 quarters. The rest of the general public is set to start receiving the shots in the latter half of the year.
Inoculations prioritize lowering the death rate by considering the risk for the elderly and stopping the spread at high-risk facilities from leading to regional outbreaks.
The very first shots will be for an estimated 50,000 medical workers directly involved in fighting COVID-19. Following in the first quarter are 780,000 residents and workers of nursing homes and 440,000 in medical response teams starting mid-March. For this stage, the vaccines used will be from AstraZeneca and the COVAX facility. In the second quarter, people aged 65 or older and those working at or using high-risk facilities for the elderly or disabled are next in line, a group of more than 9 million. In addition, those working at neighborhood clinics and pharmacies will be able to get their shots. For the second quarter, the country plans to roll out Moderna and Janssen vaccines to boost the supply. Pfizer is set to arrive Korea by the latter half of the year.
Starting from the second half of the year, we will expand inoculations for all citizens, considering the supply of vaccines and how inoculation went in the first half.
So far, from COVAX and the 4 vaccine producers, the country has secured shots for 56 million people, with the government in talks with Novavax for vaccines for an additional 20 million people to provide room for safety. In case of serious side effects or adverse reactions to the vaccines, the government will provide compensation. If the process goes according to the plan, 70% of the country will be immune to COVID-19 by November. But the health authorities added that the goal is to speed up the process as much as possible. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
With a continued COVID-19 vaccine shortfall across the European Union, the bloc is pressing for an export control scheme that will block the exports of vaccines developed within the region. The shortage is also forcing EU member states to suspend inoculations. Kim Hyo-sun has the details.
The EU is facing a deepening COVID-19 vaccine shortage crisis, which is hindering the region's massive immunization race. The 27-member bloc has warned drug makers like AstraZeneca that it would use all legal means or even block exports unless they deliver the shots as promised. They explained that an export control scheme will be adopted Friday to ban outbound shipment of vaccines developed in EU countries. Senior officials said that this is not about an export ban, but rather it's about monitoring and boosting transparency. AstraZeneca announced earlier that it would slash deliveries of its vaccine by 60% due to production problems. EU member states are far behind Israel, Britain, and the U.S. in rolling out vaccines. Against such a backdrop, Spain became the first EU member state that has decided to halt vaccinations in Madrid for 2 weeks due to a shortfall. Its health authorities also warned that other regions may also follow suit.
We stopped applying the first dose due to Pfizer's vaccine supplying problem. We're waiting for it to come back to normal so we can continue the first doses for all the staff who are pending vaccination. We are prepared, we have identified them so we can move on.
A shortage has also forced France to suspend inoculations. Its health authorities announced Thursday that it will postpone giving out its first doses from next Tuesday in Paris. It added injections of the second dose would continue, but did not comment on when the first dose inoculations would resume. Kim Hye-sun, Arirang News.
A World Health Organization team exited a 2-week quarantine Thursday in Wuhan, China, to begin its probe into the origin of the novel coronavirus. Scientists are set to visit research institutions, hospitals, and the seafood market that's linked to the initial outbreak over the next several weeks. Choi Min-jung has more.
2 weeks after completing quarantine in the Chinese city of Wuhan, a team of experts from the World Health Organization has been given the green light to start fieldwork, investigating the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. 13 researchers who arrived in the city earlier this month left their quarantine hotel on Thursday afternoon. Field visits are set to begin on Friday after the experts and Chinese scientists hold their first face-to-face meeting. The WHO tweeted later in the day that the team plans to visit the Huanan seafood market, the epicenter of the original outbreak. The team also plans on visiting research institutes and laboratories, as well as hospitals that treated patients in the initial stage. The experts are hoping to speak with some of the patients who were first infected with the virus as well. The probe into the origins of the pandemic came about after much contention between the two sides. Prior to pledging full cooperation, Chinese authorities had rejected calls for international investigation for months, saying matters were complicated with new clusters in the country. Speculation over the origins of the virus coming from bats in China have also caused tensions as the Chinese government cast doubts on those claims. Although experts are now a step closer to figuring out the origins of the deadly virus, watchers say it may take years and numerous attempts before coming down to any final conclusions. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
2 cases of the South African variant of COVID-19 have been reported in the United States, marking the first time the highly transmissible strain has been discovered in the country. State health officials in South Carolina reported the cases, but noted that they are unrelated to each other. It added that neither of the 2 adults were known to have traveled. The arrival of the South African variant comes as the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention predicted that the UK variant could be the dominant strain in the U.S. by March. The South African variant has now been detected in more than 30 countries. South Korea's industrial output last year edged down 0.8% compared to the previous year, mainly due to the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Statistics Korea on Friday, this is the first year that industrial output has fallen since the data was first compiled in 2000. Mining and manufacturing industries performed slightly better, helped by semiconductors, but service production dropped 2%. Consumption was also down by 0.2%, the largest drop in 17 years. But for the month of December, industrial output, consumption, and investment all went up on month, showing signs of economic recovery. The world's biggest economy, the United States, saw its GDP decline 3.5% in 2020, due in large part to the COVID-19 pandemic. The fourth quarter didn't do much to steady the ship. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The U.S. saw its first full-year GDP decline in decades last year. It came to 3.5%. According to the Commerce Department's report released on Thursday, the economy fell into recession in February 2020, a month before the WHO declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. The negative growth was the worst year for the U.S. since the end of World War II. The U.S. economy also grew less than expected in the final 3 months of 2020 due to a resurgence of the virus. GDP grew at an annualized rate of 4% in the fourth quarter, lower than the 4.3% growth estimated by the Dow Jones and the 4.2% by Bloomberg. The U.S. economy was on a roller coaster ride in 2020 as it contracted at a post-depression record of 31.4% in the second quarter of 2020, before rebounding to a 33.4% gain in the next 3 months. With lower than expected growth in the fourth quarter, many economists see challenges for the early part of 2021. They also cited a slower than anticipated rollout of the vaccines, combined with a continued rise in cases and restrictions on activities across the country. However, economists paint a brighter picture moving forward once vaccines are more widely distributed in the second quarter. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Pentagon says it's aware of North Korea's continued pursuit of new weapons and made assurances that the U.S. will maintain the readiness needed on the Korean peninsula. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby on Thursday refused to make specific assessment of North Korean weapon systems when asked about the regime's development of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. He instead answered that Washington is well aware of Pyongyang's desire to enhance military capabilities and knows exactly what their new weapons are designed to do. Kirby also insisted U.S. troops in South Korea were still able to get sufficient levels of training to keep readiness capability intact, despite delays with joint military exercises between South Korea and the U.S. As part of Digital Mozart Week, award-winning South Korean pianist Cho Seong-jin was invited to Salzburg in Austria to celebrate Mozart's 265th birthday. On Wednesday local time, Cho performed a Mozart's composition which had not been heard in hundreds of years. Peunji reports.
To mark Mozart's 265th birthday, South Korean pianist Cho Seong-jin on Wednesday performed a Mozart composition, which went unheard for hundreds of years. The 94-second-long Allegro in D is thought to be from early 1773, when Mozart was just 17 years old. It was first discovered when being offered to the Mozarteum Foundation in 2018 by a French-Dutch engineer who had bought the manuscript from a dealer in Paris in the late 1920s. The foundation staff and experts from U.S. and Germany later verified that it had undeniably been composed by Mozart.
This piece is so valuable, I didn't want to take any risks. I got 4 other experts to verify this, who all confirmed that this is an unknown piece by Mozart.
The performance was part of the Digital Mozart Week, organized by the Salzburg Mozarteum Foundation in Austria. Cho, who is the first Korean to win first prize at the Chopin International Competition, said it was a great honor to be invited to perform in the city where Mozart was born and where the piece may have been written.
What I like the most about his music is his storytelling, and I can also feel some operatic moments even in his piano repertoire.
Cho's performance was streamed online as the event was being held virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Peunji, Arirang News.
Good morning. You never really know what the weather has in store for you these days with the dramatic pattern changes we are seeing. Well, today we are under the grip of more bone-chilling temperatures, and the strong winds are adding even more chill to the air. Well, Seoul felt like below minus 20 degrees Celsius this morning, and it's going to remain fairly cold all day with cold wave alerts across the country. What's more, storm force winds continue with strong winds alerts in place. Wind could reach 20 to 25 meters per second, and do brace for strong gusts through late this afternoon. Snow on Jeollado provinces and Jeju should let up shortly and will turn mostly sunny. Meanwhile, upper central regions will remain below zero at -4 degrees Celsius here in the capital, while Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to just 1 degree this afternoon. The cold snap, though, will be short-lived. Readings should return to the season norms this weekend, but there will be some wintry precipitation through the weekend in central parts of the country. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching.